Thank you very much, Joanna. So let's go live to the Supreme Court then, where we've had that ruling in the last few minutes that the minimum income requirement, that threshold of £18,600, according to the Supreme Court judges, is compatible with human rights legislation, but the rules don't take into account children enough. Dominic Casciani is our Home Affairs correspondent. Fill us in, Dominic.
Yeah, Victoria, I think we're into legal PhD territory here. This is quite a complicated ruling, but in short, the claimants, the couples who said they've been divided by this very controversial rule since 2012, in technical legal terms, they have won their appeal. But broadly speaking, what the Supreme Court has said is that the Home Office's objective of using a minimum income system to control who comes into the UK is lawful. It does stand the test of time, and they haven't suggested it should basically be knocked out by a rethink by Parliament. Now, in short, what they've said is the problem with it is how it applies to children. In essence, they've said that immigration officers aren't effectively given any guidance about how they should take into account the rights of children. And secondly, a broader question about how you assess what a couple's income is. So let me just go back a step and explain what the rule is. In essence, a couple who want to settle in the UK where one partner is born outside of Europe and the other is a British citizen or a settled refugee, the partner here in the UK, they have to have a minimum income of about 18,600. That rises if they have children, and that income is effectively the sponsorship of the partner they want to bring in, irrespective of how much the other partner earns. The claimants, thousands of claimants, have said that this is a really jolly unfair system, but the Supreme Court has said, oh, actually it's not. It's legitimate, even if it does have a harsh effect. This is really complicated, so I've got with me here Nicola Burgess from the Joint Council for the Welfare of Immigrants, who's been involved in this case from the beginning. Nicola, I mean, look, what is this? Is this a win, a loss, or a score draw? How does it work out?
Well, we consider it to be a win. We are actually delighted by today's judgment. As you just said, thousands of people have been affected by this unfair rule, and that includes British citizens and British children. JCWI have been campaigning against the rule since its inception almost 5 years ago. We've compiled a report which was referred to in the judgment, which documented the impact on children who have been separated from a parent, and that detailed the emotional and psychological harm that it's been caused by this unfair and inflexible rule. A rule that 41% of UK's population couldn't even satisfy. The court also acknowledged that it has caused significant hardship to many people and sadly will continue to do so. However, what's important is the judge's findings. That now has to be implemented by the government. So moving forward, they do have to take into account the best interests of children. That has to be the primary attention.
But the whole thing just could end up with no real change to many families, because in essence what the court has said is, the fact is that, in their words, it does cause hardship to many families, but it's not incompatible with human rights law. And in essence what they've said is, look, go back, tweak the rules, and in many cases you're going to have thousands, well, potentially thousands of families, you tell me, who still won't come up above the minimum income threshold that the Home Office has set. In essence, that feels like it's a government victory.
No, I would disagree. There's still a practical benefit to thousands of families, particularly those including children. The government must now implement a wider balance. It has to be a fair balance between the rights of individuals and the public interest.
And am I right in saying that some of the families being affected have been in slightly bizarre circumstances, so to speak, where you've had a partner outside the UK who's earning more than the partner inside the UK?
Exactly, and the unfair position before today's judgment was that the future earning power could not be taken into account. The court has now opened the door for the government to revisit that, so alternative sources of income can be taken into account.
So there's a long way to go yet on the story. Nicola, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What will in essence happen now is the Home Office will consider its response now. It's going to tweak the rules to comply with what the Supreme Court has said. In essence, that will mean that probably a lot of these cases will end up back in immigration tribunals and back in the courts whilst they try and thrash out whether or not couples can settle legally here in the UK. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Dominic. More reaction in the next few minutes after the sport with Jess.
Yes.